We are WNST. Towson, Baltimore. Baltimore Positive. We are positively into Baltimore versus Washington football week here. The baseball games never felt like anything rivalry, but it's football, and it's my birthday this week, and it's Leonard Raskin's birthday this week, and it's Luke Jones's birthday this week, and it's Jim Palmer's birthday this week. So we're getting together at Pizza John's in Essex. I'll have the Raven scratch-offs to give away from the Maryland Lottery. Our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care powering us up, and of course Liberty Pure Solutions getting us out to 26 oysters in 26 days. 1-800-CLEAN water. If you need well water, you need clean water, you need drinking water. I have drinking water here. It's a good thing I have some water in this segment because I'm going to let this guy ramble on about all sorts of things because he is a mentor to me. He brings the wisdom to the program. You know him as the former Baltimore Sun longtime columnist. I am a columnist. He is John Eisenberg. He has done the Bird tapes, and Hank Peters is now available here. Baseball season, football season converging. John, you got a book on black quarterbacks. You got all these things you do. And I purposely sort of thought, I'm going to get Eisenberg on that week of my birthday, and they're going to be playing playoff baseball, and we're going to be. And instead, we're in a whole different conversation here, I think, on the back end of the baseball season. But your bird tapes were brilliant. It was a brilliant sort of season for the most part. But the requiem for the Orioles is really, really rough this week based on these exits and based on not hitting the ball. And more than that, and heartbreaking for me, and you know me as a Baltimore kid, seeing 10,000 empty seats at playoff games, bad optics.
Yeah, that wasn't great. That was, not a good look for the city. I don't know. I think there's a number of factors. I saw these polls online. Why were there empty seats? I think it's a number of factors. Definitely, I think the fans, listen, I have intense fans in my family, and they were frustrated with this team and that's not to say they didn't go to the game because they did, but it was kind of like the season was over. It was a relief. We're tired of looking at this team, just the way the season wound down. It was not appealing baseball. It was tough to watch. And so I think that had something to do with it. There was not a lot of faith in the team. I do think the 4:08 on a Tuesday afternoon against the Kansas City Royals, good luck drawing a sellout crowd there. I don't care whether it's in October or July or February.
Why is that? I would figure the old white people that are scared of the city and people, they make a day of it. They take the day off. The
Working.
Ravens played a playoff game in the middle of the week. Tickets were $10. I mean, I feel like they have a brand problem. And if it's the people are too old and too white and too sprung out to like get there, then they need to do more here because tickets were
Yeah.
$10, John. I mean, it wasn't price point. It really,
No, I
and
don't
I
think
hear that
money.
school teachers can't get there and certain people with lifestyle and work, but I'm just shocked they couldn't go 45,000 deep at $10
Yeah.
a throw.
Yeah. No, I mean, it should be better. There's no doubt. And now you look at places, where was it? Was it San Diego? I saw, wow, an intense atmosphere at the games.
It was a
And
football crowd because they don't have a football team anymore.
Well, yes, and that may be part of it, but you would hope. What was it last year? Well, last year was. I'm trying to think. They didn't play the first round
They
playoffs
played
last
the
year,
ALD, right? And
right?
tickets were 75, $80 to get in and sold out. I mean, it was clean. It was an opening day type of pricing. You know what I mean? It was a
Yeah,
premium price, but it wasn't what ALCS tickets are going to be, which is 250, 300 to sit on the roof, and then the World Series is going to be grand. You know?
right, right.
I
Well,
don't
the
know that
whole
this fan base. I don't know how deep people's pockets are for this. I mean, I always wondered that with hockey playoffs. Well, Leonard Raskin and I talked about it. It's not cheap. Football tickets aren't cheap. I get all of that, but there is a point with the baseball thing that the affordability of going anytime and the love of the team. To your point, Wick was pissed. They were going to lose, but he was not going to be there.
no, he
He
went.
wasn't not going to be the noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he went, and there were. It's too bad there weren't, that it wasn't sold out. I will say, the way that season wound down, it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch, just the continual, and of course brings into mind what an interesting offseason it's going to be, and who's going to get blamed and how they're going to proceed forward from here. It's an interesting place that they're in as a team, and to see how they still have so many good things. All these young players. They got a new ownership. and you have to believe there's going to be more payroll. And a good team. They still won 91 games in a kind of a depressing season the way it wound down. So we'll see. But it'll be an interesting offseason, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of excitement come March and all that. They're in a better place than they were, but they still have work to do.
You've written a lot of requiems on a lot of really bad Oriole teams through a lot of years where they couldn't, they wouldn't, they can't, they didn't, all of that. I wrote a very heartfelt long letter to David Rubenstein last week that, as one of my writing coaches and mentors, I hope you read it because I'm 56 years old now. I'm not writing stuff just to write it. I mean, it has a real sense of purpose in regard to what the city is, the empty seats last week. I wrote it before the seats were empty. I wrote it fully believing and even saying to Luke, they'll sell the tickets. I was blown away that there were that many empty. Blown away. I know how I feel. I figure everybody else is just going to go marching down there for $10 and be into it because it's fun. It's baseball. It's October baseball. And
Right.
you're like, who wants to see the Royals? Bobby Woods might be the best player in the sport this side of Otani, right? So
Right.
there's, and not to let alone our players, Rutschman aside, right? And whatever his ills and pains and all of that. I would just say for me, this offseason, I have high hopes that it won't look, feel, smell, taste, appear to be anything like the last 31 years in
I hope
regard to
so.
who Katie Griggs is, who David Rubenstein is, who his people are. What the obvious is that the empty seats have to be acknowledged, and that this is a brand that's they're starting from somewhere not at 55 wins. Thank God for that, right? I mean, we saw that. They're starting at, we got a really good team, and we used to have a really good brand, and Washington's there, and we're not getting those fans, although Mr. Rubenstein looked like he was down there recruiting at the Commanders game the other day. That how can this market, this team, this franchise move beyond being played into small market? Because it has
Yeah.
been, that was my thought with 10,000 empty seats. I'm like, man, nothing screams low payroll, we're a small market, we're poor and broke than 10,000 empty seats in a
Yeah.
playoff game. I mean, it screams, I can't, we're gonna buy Gunnar Henderson, or
Yeah.
what game are we gonna play here?
Listen, you got to spend those two things. There may be a correlation. You got to spend your way out of that mentality. Very honestly, you have to spend your way out of it. You have to sign some of these guys. You have to go Burns. Okay, say Corbin Burns is gone. Find another pitcher. They get another pitcher. The starting rotation. A good high quality pitcher doesn't have to be Burns. You spend your way out of that mentality. I think you set the bar higher. You just say, okay, yeah, we got some nice young players. Clearly, as this season went along, what was evident is you need some veterans too. There has to be a mix. A lot of these young guys, it's a slow process, even when they get here. And I'm not sure Jackson Holliday was really ready for Major League Baseball all season, and yet he was here. And so we'll see. But you spend your way out of that mentality a little bit, and it's high time that that happen. You have a guy. He said, "I'm not here to make money. I'm here to bring something to Baltimore." Well, okay. Well, let's see what that looks like.
When did you arrive in Baltimore, John?
1984.
What month in 19? Because that's an important year.
Yeah. No, it was eight. Let's see, 8 months post Colts. 1984, November of 1984. The
Okay,
Colts had
so
just left. The Orioles were 1 year removed from the World Series.
in an homage to my dearest friend John Allen, who wrote the song "She's Still Preoccupied with 1985." 40 years you've been here and you've witnessed this, and you weren't here at the very beginning of Lucchino and the Edward Bennett Williams, part of that. What did you find as an out of town columnist? The same thing that Laura Vesey, Mike Litwin, all of these people that came in from other places to genuflect at the Babe Ruth Museum and the the legend of Brooks Robinson and Johnny Unitas and the things that you found here. I mean, the football team had just left, so forget that. You came in; we weren't going to have a football team. We are going to have Herb Belgrade serving crab cakes into perpetuity. The baseball part of what you found here was 83 they won, 84 they didn't, 85 they're trying to figure out how to bring Earl Weaver back. It was an ish show. They bottomed out in 88. They came back in 89. and then they built a ballpark, right? And they had a different ownership. That was sort of that. I'm promoting your bird tapes, by the way, John, and your 1980s baseball history here. But Katie Griggs, and whatever my expectation is for her, it is extremely, the bar is set extremely high by Larry Lucchino and Janet Marie Smith and all that was done during that glory period of not having a football team. They got $600 million to build bigger, whatever they want, bigger and better. They have a billionaire owner who is 74 and probably wants to win, I guess. I don't know anything about him. He hasn't stepped forward to be anything other than a guy who throws hats out and makes commercials at this point in regard to civically being involved here in a way where Larry Lucchino put boots on the ground. And Marty Conway talks about that. Tell me that 84 to 92 period where I had a press pass all those years and I got in my car from Highlandtown and went out to the ballpark and saw 18, 24, pretty much where the franchise is now. Some nights they give a tankard out and they get 38,000, they'd sell some tickets. So they didn't have bobbleheads then, but big series, Yankees would come in, Nolan Ryan would pitch, they'd get 40,000 out there for a night, whatever. But Larry and Janet Marie grew this thing into DC that really gave a lot of money and a lot of Skybox and a lot of Washington Post and a lot of Larry King and Will, give me his name, Will, whatever it is, the Republican dude. So nonetheless, there was some inertia around Cal Ripken and all that happened that really led to a lot of money being spent here in the mid 90s on the Alomars and the Suroffs and the Palmera, all of that stuff that we did. I don't know where this is going to be, but it's not going to go back to that. But they better figure out what this is and get some boots on the ground because they got to sell tickets in Sky. So they got to really sell a brand that is where it is right now, but still be loved. But they got to go make some money. They got to figure out where the money is here, John.
Yeah, they do. Because in the 80s, when I got here, they were still living off those glory years, even though the organization was at a tipping point. There's no doubt. And as I've done these bird tapes and listened to all these interviews intensely, I feel like I could teach a class on, what happened here. I mean, it's really interesting what happened. And it really goes back to the start of free agency in the 1970s. And suddenly the fact that the Orioles were not making money. I mean, Hank Peters told me in his bird tapes interview, which I just put up today, he just let it slip that there was maybe a couple of years where the Orioles lost money, under with Jerry Hoffberger was the owner, and I'm like, whoa, seriously.
And Brooks wasn't making anything. And
yeah, frankly, they weren't drawing anyone. They had 1,200 season tickets. I mean, so yet they were great on the field. So it was a very interesting place they were in. Were they equipped for the big money era of baseball? They were not. And so that had a lot to do with it. And that had a lot to do with what happened to the team.
Remember Plan A and Plan B free agents? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I remember being a kid and see it in the paper and saying, my dad would say, we can't afford Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because Hank talks about it in his interview with me. And Earl Weaver in his Bird Tapes interview ripped Hank, saying, we should have kept Reggie. And, we could have done it. And but if you listen to Hank, who was also at that point, was sort of running you ran the business side as well then too as GM, and he's like, we had 1,200 season tickets, 1,200.
They knew how to play baseball. They didn't know how to sell tickets.
Yeah, they did not. And so then Oriole Magic happened in 79 is the year when everything changed. And it was the year Hoffberger sold a team. And then Bennett Williams comes in, and he's a DC guy. And he's able to tap into that DC market, which had already started, by the way, before he took the team over. But so the Orioles that I ran into in 1984, 85, they were still living off that. They were really well run still in many regards. It was what shocks me, what I really think about looking back at it years later, it was a small business. It was like a family. You had Helen Conklin. I mean, the secretaries had been in there for 20 years. Everybody knew them. They probably had 20 employees, it seems like. I mean, I'm talking about front office, not scouts and all that stuff.
And they all had to be nice to every John Eisenberg and every fan and every usher because they needed the money.
And they were nice. I mean, it was just it was like a small family business. It was so small. And it was still small through the late 80s there. And of course, when they moved to Camden Yards in 92, and Greg Olson talks about it in his Bird Tapes interview, which I haven't put up yet, but it's like, everything changed. It became the players could see it. It became just a big business. There was more money on the table, more fans, everything. better. Everything in regards to off the field was just accelerating dramatically. And that was true,
But they
really.
captured the community, right? I mean,
They
literally, they
had the
captured the
community.
community.
They had the community. And especially with the Colts gone, they had the community. There was no one else here. They had a team, even though the team was going in the toilet. There was so much goodwill built up from all those years of winning. And, you still had guys on the team. I mean, Rick Dempsey, when did he leave? Like
Well,
87, maybe?
Flanagan walked off the field with him in
Flanagan.
'91, right?
Yeah, so you still
After
had
being here from
vestiges.
'76.
Yeah, you had vestiges of it. So there was a lot of goodwill left over. And when the Colts departure, there was this intense, I'm sure you remember it, there was this intense sort of, put our arms around what we do have.
Well, the
And
Blast, I mean, I texted Kenny Cooper last week. The Blast were a great example of something that really thrived because of that.
yeah, yeah. So that happened. And now, I mean, it's never going to go back to that, how it was so small. I mean, the sport, sports has changed. I mean, it's completely changed. I mean, the Orioles front office has what, hundreds of people in it. I have no idea
And
how
that's just
many.
the media department.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. So there's just so much more in this branding, and it spreads in so many ways, and I couldn't even begin to tell you. So there's a lot more overhead, and it's just no longer a small family business; it's a corporation, and so you just sort of, the goal is the same: capture the community and find some way for people to feel connected to the team. And so strides have been made. That's good because and winning helps. There's no question. Winning is the first thing. If we're still at 55 wins a year, it would be rough looking ahead. So winning is the bottom line. Has to be part of it. And so they've actually sort of done that. They haven't won the World Series, but what 192 wins in the last two seasons. That's pretty good. So they've won a lot of baseball, and now it's a question of how do you translate that to the business side. And Katie Griggs, it's an interesting position she's in. By all accounts, pretty sharp cookie, and I'm interested to see what happens.
Well, I am as well. And, and that's why I'm saying, like, the day that they call the next press conference, that hopefully I'm there asking questions as well, I'll know things have changed from my perspective. But more than that, like the optics of, we're going to attack those empty seats. We don't like empty seats. We're going to spend money. We're going to be in the news. We're going to have a press conference every 2 weeks. We're going to bring back the Christmas carnival on the club level to buy tickets. And they're going to be half price that night if you buy them in December. They're like,
Right.
whatever they're going to do, whatever the Orange Club is. I mean, John, they had $65 come see the team for the whole month. I don't know how the people that have actual tickets feel about that, but I know, and this is the God's honest truth, speaks to the Charlie Ekman in me. This speaks to my father and the shot and beer town that you found in 1985, right? The non-club level fan here, the non-Ruxton, you know, people that, like
Yeah.
my dad, $5 ticket was a $5 ticket. For me, with thinking about how to position their brand and where they are for all of this, Brooks is gone. They're trying to cow all of that stuff. They have great players. They've got great traditions. They've been good on the field. I think there's an embracing part for them to stay in the news and stay relevant. They haven't had their spring training games on television on their own network in 18 years, 19, however long they've had the network. Like, things they could do to elongate the season the way the NFL never goes at. The Ravens get eliminated. They run the ball 3 times. They get their ass kicked. We're going to lick our wounds next week. Lamar's going to be the MVP, and we're going to sign players. We're going to sell tickets. We're going to have a draft. We're going to stay in the news. And we haven't had that news cycle for baseball here in a long time, to be active in the offseason and be engaged in the offseason, because the
Yeah.
players don't live here. Manager doesn't, nobody, they just go away. Baseball takes a nighty night. Um, and
Well,
it doesn't come back till April for a lot of people in Baltimore. And that's bad on the brand for me.
yeah. No argument there. I mean, part of, and that's sort of industry wide, by the way. It's not just a Baltimore problem. It's true industry wide. All these teams deal with it. I mean,
They don't sign players early anymore because it costs more, right?
yeah. I mean, baseball it has a myriad issues. Uh, you know, uh, and some of them are, this extra level of playoffs. It's one thing, I'm not a huge fan of it. I never have been. I've always sort of believed I'm really old school. But 162 games I feel should mean something. And I've always felt that way. And adding a wild card team, that was good. Adding two, adding three, it's too many. And so you've got a whole nother layer of games. And so when you're diluting the regular season a little bit, you're diluting the playoffs a little bit. And as a result, it stands to reason you're diluting the fascination with it all. I think, that you're diluting the fact that you have to be there in that first round game. You just are, I feel. And so
Well, the Yankees and the Orioles played a series a week and a half ago that meant nothing, that we thought could have meant everything. And in the modern format, it just didn't mean anything.
meant
And
nothing. So
yeah,
that's how I am. And I'm in the minority. People love playoffs. People love the postseason. I like the winner go home drama and, March Madness aspect of it. And that, it's all well and good. I always felt that baseball is a little different. Football, it is different. It's one game and there's so much pressure on the one game. So the one game wild card thing was kind of interesting. I thought a lot of pressure on that. So I kind of liked that. But
I like that better than this, and I
I
don't
like it
like
better.
greasing pitchers either. Greasing bats for 5 days for the teams that win. We saw that wasn't a good recipe for the Orioles last year. I mean, time will tell this week as to how
Yeah.
the Phillies and these teams do. But
Yeah, so I don't love it. And so, but I think it impacts the fascination with it all a little bit too. And that's baseball's issue. And then I'll go back to it, playing a game on Tuesday afternoon. And yeah, I mean, you're certainly right about the empty seats, but baseball's not helping with Tuesday afternoon at 4:38. And then tomorrow's 4:08. And it's like, what the hell? So but that's where it is. And so there's no going back. They're only going to add playoff teams, not subtract them.
the baseball gods of Wrigley Field will tell you that they should only play baseball games in daylight. John
220.
Eisenberg is here. He still has the bird tapes. I would highly encourage everybody to go out. If you love the Orioles, you love the history of the Orioles as much as I love the history of the Orioles, which is what I wrote to Mr. Rubenstein in my Peter principles. That like I have studied the history. John has studied the history. There are very few of us that have tried to capture in words and in magic that's now 30, 40 years old, 50 years old in some cases. Some of the stories in the bird tapes. We're on to modern times. I don't want to get into Lamar necessarily in the Cincinnati game as much as I want to get into the Baltimore Washington football thing with you as a historian for all of this and having been there for Herbie Belgrad's crab cakes for Rankin Smith and Leonard Toast and everything that happened here for football and Governor Schaefer saying you're not getting a team in Laurel. We're not going to build you a parking lot or roads to get in there. I had my Capital Center retrospective guys last week. We even talked heavy metal parking lot as well as Caps and Wizards and Bullets and Wes Unseld and all those other things you loved. But the football Baltimore Washington thing only get together in 4 years. Hey man, Washington finally got something to crow about. They got a quarterback, they got a different name, a different owner, all that stuff. It is a state rivalry. It really is. Two Maryland teams getting after it in a rare case, but your black quarterback book comes right into play here and where we are with Jaden Daniels and where we are with Lamar Jackson to say, and I made a case for Joe Burrow this week as well, doing it the old way. This is a fascinating matchup for Baltimore v. Washington at this point in whatever little rivalry there might be in the minds of me and some old school Baltimore people, because the Washington people never cared much about us.
No, no. I mean, but that situation, uh, it has changed dramatically. And I think one thing that people in Baltimore fail to understand a little bit is that the Commanders, of course, they've changed their name and they've gone through a lot of branding changes and everything. But as a franchise, the fact that they've been in Washington since, I believe, 1937, just by virtue of that, everything's bigger. They got more fans. They got a higher ceiling of revenue. I mean, it's not so much revenue because it's everybody shares the pie in the NFL, but it's a big shouldered franchise and they've been down a long time. I mean, it's like the Orioles in some respects and they've been down a long time. They have better ownership now and and a great young quarterback. I think it's exciting for them. Good for them. I mean, I hate to see it's just depressing. I mean, you talk about what I envision, what I came to in 1985. was the Washington Redskins on top of the world, with a 40,000 people on the waiting list or whatever it was. And I started going to football games. Baltimore Suns, there was no team here anymore. I'd go down and cover. I was assigned, by the way, to go cover a Washington game. I'd write some story, come back, and get all these letters. What the hell are you doing? Why are you going on there?
I
And
don't care about what Joe Gibbs
yeah,
thought after beating the Giants. We don't care about
yeah.
either one of them,
What are
right?
you doing? But let me tell you, that place was hopping and that team was rolling. And so, you just hate to see pathetic decline like that. And it's not good. So, good for them. It's fun. They got a good young quarterback, and more power to them. Let's see. They got a good coach, I think, Quinn, and it looks like they're riding the ship a little bit. Again, it's a little bit like what's happening with the Orioles. So, they could come in here and win. Who knows? But, it seems like people have barely stopped them for like a month. So, and then certainly the Ravens didn't stop the Bengals. I mean that they barely made a couple stops at the end of that game, but until then they couldn't stop the Bengals. So looks like Washington could come in and move the ball. It'd be a great game. Be a great game. I wouldn't want to be playing opposite Lamar in like any game, along those lines. I mean, that was just a shootout to end them all in many regards. And you've got this incredible offense on the other side that was pretty much unstoppable, and somehow Lamar pulls it out, running around and stiff arming and heaving. What a performance! I mean, I do think people in Baltimore, by the third or fourth quarter of that game, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to win this game, but it sure is entertaining. NFL football can be pretty boring, and it is in a lot of places, but it is not boring here with that guy running around doing what he does. It is fun to watch.
Well, if we get to the point this week and the game could have been flexed and like all of that, right? We get to the point that it's Baltimore versus Washington for the big game in New Orleans or sometime down the
That'd be
line.
great.
I would think that John Eisenberg would be just a great guest to book on Super Bowl week from Radio Row, because you've written a book on black quarterbacks and sort of this game defines the modern part of all the history, sordid, lurid, awful, racist history of the league, that we're in a different place now when it's Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson, and people are saying I'd way rather have either one of these than Joe Burrow and run my offense that way. If I have an X factor on the field every week that every defensive coordinator has to contend with, it's a lot more difficult for Zach Orr to deal with one versus the other.
It's almost impossible. I mean, the offense it's almost impossible to defend what's going on in the NFL these days with some of these offenses. They're so smart, they're so precise, and, they're so good at seizing the advantage at personnel 3-on-2 out on the wing. They're really good. They're really good at designing plays. And so I think it's really hard to play defense in the NFL right now. And so, but the position itself has changed, completely changed the quarterback position. And that's part of what I wrote in my book. I mean, it wasn't just, I sort of traced the entire history of the quarterback position and what teams wanted in a quarterback, which was unchanged really, they wanted straight drop back white quarterback really into the 2000s. There were a few little blips along the way, but that's what they wanted. And so really only in the last 12 or 13 years have teams, a widespread nature across the league, embrace the idea of a guy who can run as well as throw, can move, doesn't just stand in the pocket. And so the position itself has undergone a fundamental change. And so, and it has benefited black quarterbacks. It's opened the door. And so it's great to see. I mean, just sitting what I do now on NFL weekends, it's just sit and watch. And it is quite amazing to see how many, you don't even think about it anymore. The Dallas-Pittsburgh game on Sunday night, that's a matchup of black quarterbacks. Historic rivalry, they were selling it as on TV. Well, that's a little spin on history right there. That was not the case before. Two black quarterbacks in the Dallas-Pittsburgh game, which was, of course, Super Bowls played. There were not black quarterbacks in those Super Bowls. So things have changed a lot, and for the better. And it's great to see. It makes me glad I wrote the book, because I think it's it's really really important history for people to understand what it means now when you see Jaden Daniels and Lamar squaring off in a game. Why it is a story and should continue to be a story for a while.
John Eisenberg, going to wrap things up here. Some football, some baseball. I want to go back to baseball and the bird tapes for you. Promote that properly. Off season, they're not playing every day. We're having fun there for a while. When is Tom Chopay and Chico Simone? When are they being released?
They will not have them. Yeah, there's a few others. I do get occasionally go, where's Merv Rettenman? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I do not have Merv Rettenman.
But you
Hank
do have
Pete,
Andy Etchebarren, I think, right?
I do not have Andy
Oh,
Etchebarren. I
did you get
interviewed him.
Grant Jackson?
No, did not get Grant Jackson. I have 42 interviews.
Okay.
Okay. I'm halfway through. About halfway through. I've got some goodies still coming. A lot. I put up a lot of good ones. All the Hall of Famers and Boog Powell and all sorts of guys. And there's many more good ones. Rick Dempsey. Hey, as you and I have discussed, I have 2 hours of Peter Angelos, which is going to be very interesting. I'm going to put it up. I have digitized that one. It will be up within 6 weeks. And
Well, there's a mic drop. There you go.
there you go.
Mr. Rubenstein will want to hear that bird tape.
Yeah, I've been holding back on that one, but it's coming. And so
that you get me in with that.
yeah, I
Hearing
got
the
tons of
sound of
guys.
Peter Angelos' voice is something I just can't wait.
I got tons of guys. And so, yeah, I'm going to go right through the off season and keep going
Okay.
because why not? And
I see what you
yeah,
did there. I see
yeah.
what you did there.
So yes, birdtapes.substack.com slash subscribe. Yes, it's a subscription model on Substack. Really good things have happened. I've been all over the place promoting it here as well as many other places. And, Substack declared it a bestseller. I put a little check mark by my name. And yeah, it's gotten a lot of good attention. And I continue to be amazed by the feedback, and it's growing. So I'll just keep going with it and see where it goes. It's an Orioles history project is really what it is. And it's gone great. I've had a fun time with it. And I can't tell you I have a master plan. I just have this collection of tapes. I'm going to keep putting them up. I'm going to keep writing some history and let people, compare the past to the present and whatever they want to do with it, they can.
I will give the same wisdom to Mr. Rubenstein. The past does not equal the future. So I'm hoping that the future is bright for the Orioles and all Oriole fans. Everybody knows that I'm all in on things that are, honestly Baltimore and sport Baltimore. So, and I would say out loud, as I said in the beginning, I'm brokenhearted that the upper deck was empty. Like to me, it bothers me. It bothers me the tickets for $300 this week for Baltimore, Washington. It's going to be the Washington fans buying those tickets in the stadium because I understand the economics because I've been a part of it here and grew up into it. So John Eisenberg can be found out on the interwebs. His bird tapes are available on Substack. He is on all the social media places. His books are there. If you want to learn stuff, you need to know people like John Eisenberg to bring that thing full circle. John, take care of yourself. I got you out for a crab cake sometime soon. And John Lowenstein on your tapes or no?
No, no,
I
no.
love Brother
I,
Lowe.
I talked to him on the phone. Talked to him on the phone. He just wouldn't do it. He was kind of funny. When I wrote this thing all those years ago, I think he was done with home team sports and he was like, I'm playing golf. So I'm like, okay, whatever.
You talk, Brother Lowe, man. He went off
Yeah,
into the sunset, and he wishes me happy birthday every year on
yeah, yeah,
Facebook. But I can't get him out. You know what I mean? I wish I could get
yeah.
him out. But
Yeah, yeah, it would be great. The history is so great. It is interesting. Hey, I'm reading John Miller's right now a copy of I got an advanced copy of the Earl Weaver biography. Excellent, excellent. It's telling me the story of Earl, which very honestly, I'm shocked. I didn't really know it, and I think most people didn't. So great job by him.
I hit him 2 weeks ago. He was in town, and he wanted me to come downtown and read the Earl Weaver script of the Haller fight. He's got fans doing. I knew you'd love that. And I figure if you and I do it together, you can be the umpire. And you get to say for effing up World Series, and I mean, we could go back and forth.
Oh yeah, it's so great. Hey, I love on the back they got George Will's blurb
Or
on
they'd
the
be fine,
back,
you know?
his blurb on the back of the book, he's got George Will saying, Earl would be the one, like, the umpire's having a bad day, and Earl would yell in from the dugout, "Hey, are you going to get any better, or is this it?" I mean, just one line after the other. He is missed. He is so missed.
Well, he's still alive in the minds of John Miller, and that's John with an H, not John with a San Francisco Giants
Right.
logo. This is John Eisenberg with an E. He is my former mentor at the Baltimore Sun. We had a great reunion of Baltimore Sun writers. We all got together. Larry Harris looking like $1 million, and some of the old timers. We also, and you're not a part of this because you weren't lucky enough to be at the News American when we were there at Sports First. We did a 40th anniversary of the demise of Sports First with Mike
Oh,
Resigliano, Pete Kurtzel, Chris Zhang, some of your other former colleagues who edited your work as well. We did that 2 weeks ago here, and Gene Boyers, our former photographer as well. So go check that out. John's old school, he's new school. Black quarterbacks, but bird tapes, horse racing, Iron Men, the history of the National Football League and the movement of forward progress of football, right? I mean, you've written all sorts. Do you have another project or no? I'm not allowed to
right
tell
now,
anybody.
no, just the bird tapes.
All
Just the
right.
bird
All right.
tapes. Yeah. Got a few other things humming along, simmering on the back burner. We'll see.
You get 21 more Orioles to put out. I'm trying to figure out if you don't have luminaries like Tom Chopay and Chico Simone, maybe you have Lee May and Rich Dower. Maybe. I don't
Dick
know. Look,
Hall,
Dick Hall.
got him.
All right. That's a little early for me. I'm trying to think. We
Yeah.
mentioned, and I'll
Ron
drop the mic
Hansen,
with
Rookie of
oh,
the Year, 1960.
all right. I like that. That's the Aparicio era. I like all that.
Yeah.
We referenced the great Chico Garcia last week because, and I'll leave you with this, his birthday is my birthday. So
Oh,
happy birthday, Kiko Garcia, next Monday. The 14th is the birthday. The 11th is when we're going to be doing our birthday celebration. Luke's birthday was last week. We're just doing all birthdays this week. So
great.
pizza, crab cakes, meatball subs if you want, ice cream. They got beer. They got Chianti. They do it all. It's Pizza John's in Essex. Come on down. I'll give you a scratch also in the Maryland Lottery. Our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions firing up 26 oysters in 26 days, 26 ways for our 26th anniversary in conjunction with Curio Wellness and Foreign Daughter, who helped us celebrate Maritime Magic and Living Classrooms Foundation last week. Jiffy Lube Multicare is powering up Luke Jones back and forth to Owings Mills as we get ready for Baltimore versus Washington and watching other teams play baseball while we have our noses pressed to the glass. I'm rooting for the Padres, even though I never liked Manny Machado. I'm rooting for him anyway to honor Tony Gwynn. Back for more. We're Baltimore Positive. Stay with us. We're having fun this month.